Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 5 of Real Combat Media Radio, the boxing news radio show of www.realcombatmedia.com, bringing you boxing and MMA news from around the globe. We're on Twitter at Real Combat Media, that's at Real Combat Media, and also check out our Facebook fan page by typing in realcombatmedia.com into your search bar. I'm your host, John Campbell. Follow me on Twitter at BoxingJohnUK, that's at BoxingJohnUK, and like me on Facebook on BoxingJohnUK. If you'd like to sponsor this show and allow you to send a message out to our listeners in order to help grow your business with Real Combat Media Radio, then send an email to advertising@realcombatmedia.com. Once more, that's advertising@realcombatmedia.com. Now, once again, I'm with my co-host from the Bronx in New York. It's the Boxing Maniac. How's it going, Maniac?
I'm good, man. It's the Maniac. I'm here, John, man. Just exciting. A lot of news this week. And I'm just looking forward to getting straight to it, man. Very happy that boxing, it's nothing better when, we get great news for the sport that we love. And that's what we got. And looking forward to these big fights coming up.
Now, before I outline today's show for you, I'd like to direct you to the RCM store, which you can find all kinds of stuff for you to potentially purchase. We have hemp protein, we have instructional videos, and we also have the elevation mask, which replicates high-altitude training, so no longer will you have to travel to the hills. Type in Real Combat Media when prompted, and you'll receive 10% off all RCM goods. Now, tonight we have a great show for you. We're going to be speaking live to former world champion Steve Forbes. Also, we've got two-time heavyweight title challenger Eddie Chambers. Later on, he's going to talk to us about his move down to cruiserweight. Later on in the show, we'll be talking about the breaking news that Floyd Mayweather's opponent has been announced for May the 4th, and it's Robert Guerrero. More surprisingly, he signed a 6-fight deal with Showtime. Now, we're going to be discussing that and its implications. We have the Adrian Broner-Gavin Reeves fight and the Sakio Bika Nikola Sekloka fight to be recapping. Looking forward, we have 2 world title fights to discuss. We've got the IBF light welterweight title bout between Lamont Peterson and Kendall Holt. Also, the IBF light middleweight crown will be on the line when Cornelius K9 Bundridge defends it against Ishii Smith. Now, I'm going to try and contact Steve Forbes right away. Bear with me.
John. John. John, you hear me? Yeah, we just trying to get Steve Forbes, not picking up at the moment. Hopefully we could get him on. We know, like John had mentioned earlier in the show, I guess the biggest news of the week, it's, Mayweather signing the 6-fight deal with Showtime, for 30 months. The question is, before we get all into that, money-wise and everything else, the question is, will Floyd fulfill the 6-fight deal? He turns 36 this week, I believe, and he's going up against Robert Guerrero. I mean, I think a fighter stylistically that really favors Mayweather, but I think Guerrero will take something out of Floyd, even in defeat. And if Floyd keeps fighting, tough fight after tough fight, I believe that someone will eventually dethrone him. So hopefully he fights the 6-fight deal. I hope he does. I mean, why not see Floyd 6 more times? And as long as it's against top-level competition and he wins them all, then we could really, really start considering him a great of all time. But for the time being, maybe of just this era, I'm not going to really put him on the pedestal just yet.
Okay, D. Now, we're going to talk about the 5th-round stoppage from Adrian Broner defending his WBC lightweight title about Reeves. Now, firstly, despite the fact that Broner beat up Reeves for the last remainder of the fight, he lost the first 2 rounds to Reeves because Reeves seemed to outwork him. What did you make of the performance by Gavin Reeves?
When you look at the fight, Gavin Reeves, what I did like about Gavin Reeves, we have to salute him, his toughness. He went in there to win the fight. He was just overmatched. Early in the round, he showed good boxing skills. His jab seemed to be a problem for Broner. He went to the body effectively. Now, Broner wasn't able to be hurt. He wasn't hurt. Reeves couldn't hurt him. You saw it in Broner's face. He knew this. So it was just a matter of time that he'll walk Reeves down. But Reeves' performance, early on was good. Even in the rounds where Broner was getting the best of Reeves, from round 3 to round 5, Reeves still had effective moments in them rounds where he still landed to the body as well. But just couldn't hurt Broner. Broner was just physically bigger than Reeves, and also skill-wise. But Reeves, he tried. If he had some kind of pop, this fight would have been interesting. But he didn't. He couldn't hurt Broner, and that was the factor, the main factor. That was the X factor, was the power, and Reeves just happened, to get hurt, man. Broner chopped him down like a tree, and then that's what ended up happening to Reeves. But he early on he looked good, and I think it looks, for Broner's future opponents, I think they're gonna take a look at that and say, wait a minute, man, this guy can be hit. And I've said that before with Broner. He still, he has a solid defense, but he can be hit. And when you have fighters that can hit hard, landing clean like Reeves did, Broner will not be able to shake his head. If anything, he'll be shaking his head while he's laying on the canvas from being dizzy. So we'll see. We'll see going forward.
Mm-hmm. Now, in the third round, Broner began to use Reese's aggression against him and caught him with a brutal uppercut which put Reese square on his ass. Now, when this happened, did you see no way back for Reese? In fact, did you think it'd last as long as it did?
Yeah. First, let's also take this into consideration. Reese was a huge underdog in this fight. So for people to, put on their cheerleading suit for Broner and jump and want to say how special he is and he's great and he's this and he's that, look, he has the potential to be great. He has the potential to be special. But whenever you're a 40-1 favorite to be a fighter and you beat him the way that everyone expected you to, it's nothing to get hype about. That's what you were supposed to do. Now, I'm not taking nothing from Broner here. Like I said, he has the potential to be special. He has even the potential to be great. But, John, going forward, he needs to keep fighting tougher fighters. Is he willing to do that? You understand? I think he is. But you got people like Al Heyman that might say, wait a minute, Adrian, I could get you nice paydays for fighting not so tough opposition. And I understand that you want to get paid. And it's nothing wrong with that. This is a business at the end of the day. You want to get paid, but you have to fight. If you want to be considered one of the greatest and people's going to elevate you to a status where, they look at you like the next, Floyd Mayweather or the next best thing, then you have to prove yourself. And in my eyes, I'm not going to put him on that pedestal right now. The talent is there.
That's the thing. Like, Reeves is a good fighter and he's an ex-world champion at a higher weight class. But it's one of them fights where you have to turn up and look absolutely awesome or it's a loss. It's not a win-win situation for Broner, a fight like that. Reeves has got nothing to lose, so he knows that he can go balls out and it's the biggest fight of his career, and if he wins, then he's made a lot of money and he's going to make a lot of future money. But for Broner, if he looks anything other than absolutely magnificent, he's going to get criticised and people are going to doubt him in the future. Do you see any value in this fight for Broner? Because before the fight, everyone was saying, well, what's he fighting Reeves for? Why is he fighting Reeves? He needs to fight better guys. He needs to fight the top guys in the division. And it's easy to get distracted by a performance like that. But in context, as you said, Reeves was as much of a 50-1 underdog. So do you see this to add any sort of value to Broner?
No. All it was a showcase fight. That's all it was for Broner, a showcase fight. Just to show, everyone what he's capable of doing and what he could potentially be. That's all it was. Nothing more, nothing less. Reeves never posed a threat to Broner from when that contract was signed. And it showed Saturday night. And going forward, the only fight that everyone wants to see at 135 for Broner is the win of Burns-Vasquez. That's the fight I want to see. If Burns happens to be Vasquez, and Doug's Broner, then I'm going to be really pissed, and I think a lot of people is going to call Burns out on that. They're going to start calling him names like, yo, don't be a pussy. If you beat Vasquez, obviously you and Broner are the two best fighters at 135 now. Make it happen. I mean, what does Burns have to lose? Realistically, he's going to be a huge underdog in that fight. He's going to get a nice payday. He'll probably even get an extra HBO fight, for taking that Broner fight if negotiations go well. So I think he wins. Even if he loses the fight, he's still going to get paid, probably get another HBO date. And, hey, you move forward. After that, Broner moves up. He doesn't have to see no more Broner. There'll still be at fights at 135 for Burns. I wouldn't mind seeing a Burns-DeMarco fight, down the line. You got Richard Brill. So you got decent fighters at 135.
Yeah, now what did you make of the sheer size of Broner? He's only recently moved up from super featherweight, despite the fact that he didn't make weight against Escobedo. but he appears to be a massive lightweight, and with that comes great power. How far can you, first of all, how far can you think he can move up in the remainder of his career when he gets to his mid-30s? Like, how far up in weight do you think he can go up and still win world titles?
Yeah, yeah, I'm sorry, John.
Yeah, well, go on, answer that question first.
No, if you ask me, I'll say 147 he'll max out in. But no, you know what? To be really honest, he's only 23 years old. He hasn't even reached his prime yet. If you ask me, I think 154 he can max out at, but I think 147 is the weight where he's gonna do most of his his bigger fights, and I kind of see him trying to take a Floyd Mayweather approach. Only fight at 154 is a huge fight for him because Broner's big, man. You look at his frame; he's without a question not even a future 140-pounder, but a future welterweight, and perhaps bigger than that, which I think 154 would be his ideal weight. Somewhere when he's like 27, 28 years old. But we'll see. I think that's the weight where he max. But he's huge, man. You see it in his frame, man, and his physique. He's a big guy.
Yeah, no. The thing with me and Broner is I spoke to one of my friends about this, and he seems to think that Broner should stick around in the lightweight division for a couple of years. And I've heard a lot of people say that he should stay in the light division for a couple of years, but I personally disagree. I don't see the lightweight as a legacy-building weight class for him. I just see it as a weight class, solidify it in the next couple of fights, and then move up, because beating Burns, beating Vasquez, beating Reeves, beating Bulgaria, beating Abril, they're good wins, and at this day, it's like, yeah, fair play, you've beat these guys. But it's not they're not legacy-building fights. There's no legacy-building fighters and career-defining wins at 135. Now, the fights that he's going to be remembered for, and the fights that are going to compare him to Floyd Mayweather on an all-time greats level, are the guys that he's going to beat at 140, the guys that he's going to beat at 147, and the guys that he's going to beat at 154 potentially. I'm sure that he'll do what Mayweather does and fight there a few times without settling there too much. I think he should fight the winner of Vasquez and Burns, most likely win, and the only fight I would stay at lightweight for is a Gamboa fight, should Gamboa want to move up. That's the winner of Vasquez Burns and then Gamboa are the only fights that I see worthwhile at lightweight. And then after that, staying around at 135 any longer is just a waste of time. I think any more fights spent there could be spent further up in weight, doing what you plan to do in the future anyway. There's no point delaying the inevitable, in my opinion. Do you agree, Dee?
Yeah, you mentioned one opponent that you did mention that has been calling Broner out is Gamboa. But with that being said, a lot of people feel, Gamboa is real chinny. He's small like Reeves. The same outcome will happen. But Gamboa has more pop than Reeves. He has better movement. I think he could give Broner a lot of trouble. Now, as far as beating Broner, I don't know. Once again, Broner's physically too big for these fighters at 135. And every time he steps in the ring, it's going to be obvious. You're going to say, wow, dude, this guy looks bigger than Burns. He looks bigger than Vasquez. He looks bigger than the Brill. Whoever he steps in the ring at 135. A lot of people, it's saying, why y'all rushing Broner? He should stay at 135. Okay. With that being said, why would you want him? He wants to be a pay-per-view star, right? He has that pay-per-view aura. He has that pay-per-view style. But if you're going to be staying on 135 and fighting these fighters, you're not going to be pay-per-view worthy. Nobody's going to want to see you, want to pay $60 to see Broner versus Vasquez. Nobody's going to want to see $60 to see Broner versus a Brill. Even Burns. And I think, I will pay for all these pay-per-views, being that I'm just a boxing maniac that I am. But as far as the numbers that they're expecting to see, they'll do horrible numbers. You're going to have to go up to 140. Would people pay to see Broner versus Medici? Absolutely yes. Would people pay to see Danny Garcia versus Broner? Absolutely yes. You know, Broner, Rios, I mean, we know that's not realistically. Absolutely yes. Those are the fighters, you know, and you said it. His legacy is going to start when he goes to 140. That's where people's going to start saying, okay, show us what you're about. And, you know, as he keeps going north in divisions, and depending who he beat, the time he beats them, you know, because if he's fighting fighters past their primes, but, you know, at one time were world champions, then, you know, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, you beat him, but, you know, you didn't fight him in his prime. So, we'll see.
All right, just one more question before we move on. What do you think's next for Rees? Do you think Rees can come back from this and not even come back from this on a world title level or a world level? Can he come back and get that big fight in America that obviously pays more than his prior fights?
You know, when you look at the landscape of 135, anyone not named Adrian Broner, it's a solid, it's tough fights. It could go either way. I think Rees against anybody else at 135 is a hell of a fight. I think Rees has a good chance of beating anybody at 135 not named Broner. He really does. He has the skills. You know, he just doesn't, you know, he was just outmatched. But for 135, I definitely see Rees once again here in the U.S., especially just with the 2 rounds that he won from Broner. I think that alone, you know, raise some eyebrows and say, wait a minute, man, this European fighter, he is a tough fighter. And not only that, he did not look sloppy when he threw punches. He looked good. His jabs looked good. His body shots look crisp. You know,
okay, we've got a caller, and I think he's going to want to talk about Broner briefly, so we'll get him on. Hello, you're live on Real Combat Media Radio. What's your name and where are you from?
It's not like she's just some forgotten person that we don't speak of. Every time you speak to you,
hello.
Hello? You're live on Real Combat Media Radio. How's it going?
Just go back to him. Hold on, not yet. I don't know.
I'm going to give that guy a chance to do whatever he was doing, and I'm going to get back to him on the next topic now. That topic was brought to you by RCM Hurricane Sandy Appeal. Follow the link on www.realcombatmedia.com to help out those affected by Hurricane Sandy. Now, prior to that, the former IBO super middleweight champion Sakio the Scorpion Beaker fought and won a 10-round unanimous decision over the previously undefeated Nicolas Sekloko in the WBC super middleweight title eliminator. Now, D, I was really impressed by Sakio Beaker's performance. Now, I think he's improved a lot since he first came on the scene big time when he fought Joe Calzaghe back in 2006. Right, what did you make of Beaker's performance?
Yes, John, you definitely hit it on the nose. Beaker showed a lot of boxing skills in this fight. You know, he's usually considered dirty fighter, you know, inside, real rugged. But he showed some versatility here. You know, he stood on the outside, a lot of rounds through combinations with crisp, landed good. His punches looked good, didn't look wide. You know, he landed with effectiveness. He just looked good. He definitely looks like a top 168-pounder. And he looks like he's here to cause a lot of trouble at this super middleweight division.
Mm-hmm. Now, the one thing that I noticed with Sakio Beaker was more so early on was his boxing has improved a lot. As you say, he tends to be a really dirty fighter that tends to rough fighters up. But with this guy, he was beating him simply on crisp, clean work. And I think he could have outboxed him without it getting dirty or rough at all for the 12 rounds that he did. But obviously, what he done was he boxed the guy for the first couple of rounds at a distance and shown his combinations and his counterpunching, which I was really shocked to see at this stage in his career. I know he's 33, which to me, I'm surprised he's that young. I figure that Beaker's been around for so long. I thought he'd be in his late 30s. He seems like he's been around forever. But then, as the fight went on, he stepped up the pressure, and if this guy couldn't handle Beaker when he was out and out boxing, he had no chance when the guy turned up the pressure and got involved and started throwing more and more punches and harder punches to the head and the body. And I think the reason why it wasn't stopped, at the rate he was going at, I figured that he would have been out of there in the 7th or 8th round. And I think Sekwilka was there for the taking in the 7th and 8th round. But Beaker, whether it is through fatigue or whether it is through complacency, he didn't pull the trigger when he needed to, and he sort of slowed down the pace. And now I'm quite confused. Did you notice that, Did you notice he could have been out of there in the 8th round, but Beaker just sort of coasted to the win?
Well, maybe, we don't know. Maybe he wanted the rounds, or maybe, like you say, it might have been a fatigue factor. We really don't know. He wasn't in there with a world-class fighter. There's a lot of world-class fighters at 168. About 3-4 of them. And Beaker is a fighter where we might say, is anybody willing? To take this Beaker fight. We know Andre Ward already beat him. We know, years ago Kawasaki beat him. Boutte beat him. But now he looks better. He looks rejuvenated. So you already add what we know why he could do on the inside. You add that boxing skills, people's gonna start saying, wait a minute, do I really want to get in the ring with him? And I was thinking, man, how about a potential Adonis Stevenson and Beaker fight? I think that'd be fireworks.
Yeah, I think that'd be really good. That's not a fight that I actually thought of. I thought of a few of the up and coming super middleweights, like the likes of George Grove, the likes of Edwin Rodriguez, these sort of guys fighting him. But I didn't think of Adonis Stevenson. That's probably a better one than the two that I mentioned, to be honest. The thing with me is, he's won this WBC title eliminator, and that puts him in the position to fight Andre Ward. But I don't see the value in Andre Ward fighting him again. I don't think he should fight him again. I don't think he's going to, but not because I think that Andre Ward's at all scared or at all looking to dodge Sakio Beaker. I just think that if he did fight him, it's just because there's no one else to fight, and he thinks, you know what, I'll take Beaker again for another tune-up. The guy's earned his shot, and I'm going to give him his shot out of respect. I don't think there's no value at all in that fight for Ward. And to be honest, for Beaker, besides money, I don't think Beaker's looking to trouble Ward at any time soon. Now, this is a really good division. All the title holds are really strong. There's no weak titles. There's no cherry picking a title in the 168 division. You've got Kessler, you've got Froch, you've got Ward, you've got Arthur Abraham. All these guys are brilliant, and I love watching all of these guys. Is it a case of Sakio Beaker becoming the best without a title? What do you want next from Sakio Beaker? What can he achieve at this stage in his career, taking into account the fact that he's not going to beat any of the title holders? Or do you believe he can beat any of the title holders? Anything is possible. But we know every time, Beaker stepped up, his biggest fights, he lost them. Like you said, there's really no reason why. Ward is not going to fight Beaker again. So we know that. That's not going to happen. But he definitely poses a threat to all title holders. Even Ward, if they fought again. I mean, it was Ward won the fight, cleanly, but he made Ward work. If I was to pick, I think Beaker's best chance would be against Arthur Abraham. I think that's a fight. Not saying that he will win that fight. I just think that's the fighter. There's, to me, best shooter for him to have the best chance of winning. He's not going to beat a Carl Froch. Carl Froch is an ox in there. I think it'll be a good fight. It'll be good while it lasts. But I think Froch overwhelms Beaker, in the later rounds and puts a hurting on him. But it'll be a hell of a fight. I think Kessler beats him. I'm just eager to see how Kessler looks. The green fight, I really can't,
tell much because we know Green been getting beat up, his last couple fights. But after this Froch fight, we'll definitely see where Kessler stands. Because right now, if there's a fighter hotter than Froch, man, there's really none. Unless it's like Andre Ward or Sergio Martinez. But Froch is on the roll right now, and he's looking for revenge. So I would like to see Bika against these top fighters if it's possible. But you also named, like you said, Adonis Stevenson. What was the name you didn't thought of? But I also forgot about George Groves. Another European fighter who, he looks good. And I think that would be a great challenge for him, moving forward. And also for Bika, it'll show, look, I could beat these up-and-coming, fighters. So, if that fight was to happen, I'll be happy with that. As long as it's Bika against a title challenger or a up-and-coming contender at 168, I'll be happy with it, regardless who it is.
Another name to throw out there for you, D, is James DeGale, the guy who lost his only fight to George Groves. He's on his way back up to title contention. I watched him fight in Hull recently, actually. He was the Olympic gold medalist from Beijing in 2008 at the middleweight division, and he's very skillful, very flashy. But against George Groves, he didn't box tactically correct, and it cost him the fight. And George has come on to do bigger and better things. But James DeGale, he'll be back up there. He'll be back up there with a shout. Now, I think James DeGale is much more likely to fight a guy like Bika than George Groves is. I don't know why. I just see that fight happening more. I don't think that. I don't think that had happened. I don't think Adam Booth would want Sakio Bika to fight George Groves. I think George Groves is getting put on the track to go for a world title. James DeGale sort of needs to prove himself after being beat in order to be in the position to win a world title. Now, I'm happy to end that topic. That was brought to you by RCM Feed World Hunger, which you can find on www.realcombatmedia.com. Here you can follow the link if you want to make a donation to this charitable cause. The Post-Harvest Project provides relief in the form of technologies for farms and fisheries in deprived areas. Now, with that being said, we're going to try Steve Forbes just one more time. I believe that we might be able to contact him now.
Hello, this is Steve. Leave me a minute.
Okay, we're going to try and make a connection with Steve off the air in order to make sure that next time we contact him on the air, he will be and he's able and willing to talk to us. Now, without further delay, it looks like we're going to have to move on to the previews of the next week. Now, firstly, we've got the IBF light welterweight title between Lamont Peterson and Kendall Holt in Washington. Now, this is a fight that's completely off the radar, and do you agree that it should be off the radar? I'm not particularly interested in this fight. I'm not a big fan of either of these fighters. Do you think this could be a good fight or an enjoyable fight at all?
I mean, this fight I'm excited about. I really think that these are two fighters. It's a crossroad fight, if you ask me. Peterson got caught cheating. Coming off his biggest win of his career against Amir Khan. He had the rematch coming, big payday, got caught using, illegal drugs, performing enhancing. Now you got Kendall Holt, a fighter who's, probably the fighter besides, we know Bradley got the decision against Pacquiao, but the fighter that came the closest to me of beating Bradley was Kendall Holt. Besides Pacquiao, it was a real close fight. And this is it for Kendall Holt, if you ask me. I think Peterson, now he's with Golden Boy. He has the back in the Golden Boy. It's a good platform for him. I think regardless if he loses, even if he loses this fight, he'll still be back on the big network and probably get another fight because he's at a division where there's a lot of names, and Golden Boy has, decent fighters at 140 that they can make with Lamont Peterson. Now you have Kendall Holt. That this could be, do or die for him. This is a fight. If he wants to be considered a top fighter, fight for this title shot, he has to beat Lamont Peterson. And this fight, for a Friday night fight, this is wonderful for a Friday night fight. This is a fight that you see as a co-feature on HBO or on Showtime. And we getting in on Friday night fight. This is a treat. I expect a lot of fireworks in this fight. A lot of people might not agree on that, but being that the nature of this fight and what's in stake for both these fighters, I expect them to go out there and really put on a show for the fans.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is a fight that they both really do have a lot to prove. Kendall Holt he's been around for a long time, but whenever he stepped up and fought the A-grade fighter, even some B-grade fighters, he's gone on and lost. Now, a few years ago, he did win the world title, the WBO light welterweight title, in his second attempt, I believe. Yes, his second attempt against Ricardo Torres, it was. And he also defended the title against Demetrius Hopkins, which is Bernard Hopkins' nephew, and took his undefeated record, actually. He's now lost a couple of times since then, Demetrius Hopkins. He's lost to the South African Kaiser Mabuza. He's lost to Danny Garcia. He's lost a few fights. Now, he's got wins against Ben Taki and people like that, but whenever he steps up and fought the A-grade or even some B-grade fighters, he's lost. And this is one of the fights for him where if he can't beat a guy like Lamont Peterson, despite the fact that he's got a title, he's not gonna get many more bites of the cherry. He's 31 years old, and if he's not got to the top yet, or he's not going to get to the top after this fight, it's pretty certain that he's not going to get to the top at any time, because I'd consider Peterson one of the weaker of the champions at that division. Do you see any chance in Kendall Holt winning this?
Yes, of course. People could say what they want, but Kendall Holt has one of the hardest left hooks, man, in boxing. And 9 out of 10 times when he lands flush, you're going down. Ask Timothy Bradley. Ask all the other opponents he had. So I'm really looking forward to see if he could pull it off, man. If he could pull it off, because this is a fight. If Kendall Holt, like you said, he might, it's back to the drawing board, it's back to solo boxeo, He's going to have to win like 4 fights, before he can even be considered, as a, for a title shot. And he, like you say, he's 31. There's not really much in him. He's not a big draw. He's not a fan-pleasing fighter. So if he loses this fight, he is back to the drawing board for him. And he's not with a major company, promotional company. So, that doesn't help at all. At least with Peterson, if he loses, he's with Golden Boy, and Golden Boy would definitely get him another fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but with regards to Peterson, what do you think? If Peterson gets beat of Kendall Holt, it's a similar sort of situation. I think this is an all or nothing fight for both of these guys to a degree. I do agree that you say that Peterson's with Golden Boy and he will be able to get good fights, but based on this controversy surrounding the Khan fight and the fact that one of his titles was took away from him, I see Peterson a dead man walking. I think the second the guy beats him, nobody's gonna really touch him with a baseball in terms of getting another title shot. I hope Kendall Holt does it. I do like Kendall Holt. I hope that he does it, but I don't think he will. I think Peterson's got the edge now. Of course, it was controversial. It controversially came out that Peterson tested positive for testosterone during the fight with Amir Khan, and based on the way he performed and how he managed to outwork Khan, it would appear, not that I'm a biologist, but it would appear that the way he fought and the way he boxed and the way he managed to do it was based on the testosterone. Now, how much do you see value in that statement? Do you see that Peterson have a chance against Amir Khan without being on drugs, or do you think it was clearly the drugs that made him perform the way he did?
I don't. It's hard to tell. I never seen Peterson as a fighter that wears down in a fight, but also doesn't pick up the pace neither. Well, we saw him in that Ortiz fight where he got dropped. I think it was about 2-3 times. He looked really hurt. He looked like he was on his way out. He ended up fighting to a draw against Victor Ortiz, and that showed. He showed a lot of heart. He showed a lot of grit. He showed that, hey, I could fight with the best of them. And the performance against Amir Khan, to be honest, I don't think it was what Peterson did. I think it's what Amir Khan didn't do. He didn't stay away from Peterson. He stood in the pocket and allowed Peterson to tee off on him inside the pocket, opposed to just using his natural boxing ability and outboxing Peterson. And I think that's what caused Khan in that fight. And with all that being said, I think Khan won the fight anyway.
Well, I scored. Go on.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, John.
Okay. Yeah. I actually scored about the 113 to 112 to Peterson, which two of the judges did, I believe. This was because of the 2 points that were deducted. I believe that Amir Khan did win the boxing as it occurred in the ring, with the 2 points, which of course were controversial, but that's not for me to say. I scored the bout correctly as a judge within that situation, and I gave Peterson the win. But it was a combination, in my opinion, of the 2 points. Not only that, a good point that you made, and that very, very relevant. I completely agree. Khan did do everything he could in that fight. Tactically, he's shown some naivety in that fight, and that naivety was even backed up even more by the fight with Danny Garcia, in which he was knocked out. Yeah, he allowed Peterson to bully him. He allowed him to get him on the ropes and tee off on him, as you said. He didn't take the step back, which he's so brilliant at, and he doesn't seem to use his feet as much as he should do. He's got some of the best feet in the world and some of the best footwork in the world. And it's just frustrating to watch a guy that you're a really big fan of make petty strategical errors in the ring, which cost him big fights, because he was planning to be in the welterweight division now. He was probably planning to have a title in the welterweight division by now. But from 2 losses like that, it's really unfortunate. I do feel sorry for Khan, but I think the fact that Peterson got caught taking performance-enhancing drugs really gives Khan a boost and doesn't show him that all's lost in his career. Now, what's your prediction for this fight? Do you think it's going to win?
This is a tough fight, John, to pick, man. I think this fight is a pick-em fight. But gun to my head, I'm going to go out and I'm going to go out on a limb and say Kendall Holt wins this fight. I just think he's going to hurt Peterson in this fight. I really do. I think if he can't hurt Peterson, then Peterson wins a unanimous decision split. But I think Kendall Holt is going to surprise a lot of people in this fight. I think he hurts Peterson and even drops him once in this fight. So I'm going with Kendall Holt split decision.
Okay, now I'm going to go against you there, D. I'm going to say Peterson on a close unanimous decision. I think it's going to be a combination of outworking and outboxing when he wants to, but he's not going to outbox him to the degree where it's a complete joke and it's a complete whitewash. I think this is going to be sort of a 7-5, 8-4 fight for Peterson. I think he's going to keep his title until next time or the time after that. But Peterson's a sitting duck in my opinion. I think he's there for the taking. Now, I'd like to remind people to call the number 347-324-5998 to come on the show and appear and have your opinion heard. And I will try my best to get you on the air and allow you to discuss your opinion. The number's 347-324-5998. 3245998. Now, moving on to some of the other fixtures that we've got coming in the next week. We've got in Huntington, New York, on NBC Sports, a 10-round heavyweight fight between Vyacheslav Glazkov and Malik Scott. In Liverpool, at the Echo Arena, we've got David Price and Tony Thompson, who will fight in a 10-round contest. In London, we have yet another prize fighter tournament, and a very good one as it is, the International Heavyweights. And it features a number of fighters which have already competed in the previous tournament. It includes Aldo Harrison, Martin Rogan, Ian Lewison, Travis Walker, Klaus Bertino, Timo Hoffman, Derek Rosser, and the Polish Albert Sosnowski. Also on that card is the London 2012 Team GB captain, Thomas Starker, making his pro debut in a 4-round light welterweight bout against Christian Light. Now, P, are you there? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay, now, moving on to the fight in Liverpool, the Echo Arena, David Price and Tony Thompson. We spoke to Tony Thompson last week, and he was saying that this is a make or break fight for him. And he's actually come out in an interview which I read recently since our show, and he made it even more specific. He said, listen, if I lose this fight, I'm gone. This is a make or break fight for him. If he wins this fight, he's going to move on and potentially get a third title shot. If he loses, he's gone. He said he's not willing to be a stepping stone for another fighter like David Price. He's not doing this fight because he's a stepping stone. It just serves that way for David Price, but he's doing this fight to see what he's got left in the tank, and if he can pose another challenge to the heavyweight crown, which his title shots weren't terrible. He's done as good against the Klitschko's as a lot of other fighters have done, partly because he's also a good big fighter, which Klitschko's have fought a lot of guys who have been quite small, and then Tony Thompson's about 6'4", 5'6", 6'6", so he's in that sort of weight category. Do you see Thompson having a chance against a bigger David Price?
No, we spoke. It's funny, because we had Thompson on the show. We interviewed him, very good guy, and he has a shot. He does, but I think the age factor catch up to him in this fight. I just think right now Price is on his way towards a title shot. I just think overall, his ability right now, his youth, his strength is going to carry him in this fight. I see Tony Thompson having early success against Price, probably frustrating Price. But I think as soon as we get around the fourth, fifth round, I could start seeing Price pick up the pace and, start landing some bombs on Tony Thompson. And after that, it would just be a matter of time.
Do you think Price at all will want to box Tony Thompson? We know that Tony Thompson is quite a skillful boxer for a guy his size, and I'm not saying that Price is a bad boxer. He's the bronze medalist in Beijing. He's got a very good amateur career behind him and a good boxing pedigree. But of course, in the pro, he's been the guy to land those big straight punches at a middle distance, and he's gone for the knockouts. He looks to put his opponent down, like a lot of heavyweights do, and like a lot of fans want heavyweights to do. But is it going to be a case of cat and mouse in this fight? Is it going to be a case of Tony Thompson boxing clever, trying to outwork and outmaneuver David Price, and a case of David Price trying to chase him down and get that knockout win? Is that how you see this fight going in terms of its dynamic?
Yeah, I see. Like I said, I see Tony Thompson early in this fight having success against Price. I think his experience, him being in there with the better competition, is going to carry him early. Stamina-wise, I don't know how Tony Thompson is going to hold up. Price is the younger fighter. I think as the fight goes on, Price will get stronger as the fight goes on, and he'll be able to wear down Tony Thompson to the point where Tony Thompson's, boxing skills ain't going to be effective enough. Similar to what Gavin Rees did to Broner. Not saying it's the same kind of fight, but I'm just talking about the success. I see Tony Thompson winning this fight early, but then I see Price taking over this fight middle rounds on. And I think Price is going to show us that you know, he's a fighter to be reckoned with in the heavyweight division.
Now, I find it quite, like, of course, if Price wins, I doubt that it's going to go the distance if Price is going to win. I think that Tony Thompson would most likely have the 60-40 edge should it go 12 rounds. And, like, he's not been decided. Sorry, Tony Thompson has only had 2 losses inside the distance, and both of these losses were to Vladimir Klitschko. His only other loss was way early on in his first 10 fights, and which he calls a controversial decision. And it's difficult to see where Tony Thompson's chin lies. Now, we know David Price is quite a big puncher, but can we be certain that Tony Thompson's chin won't hold up against David Price, too?
You know, I just see the youth being the difference here. That's just how I see this fight going on. Tony Thompson has been in there, like I said, he's been in there with the better fighters. You know, he sparred with the David Hayes. I just think he just won't have enough in the tank. I don't think skill-wise, this is going to be a fight where David Price looks like a much, much better fighter than Tony Thompson. I just think Tony Thompson will wear down as the fight goes on. And I think Price will be able to put, you know, the pedal to the metal and just wear Tony Thompson down. And that'll be the difference here.
Yeah, so are we going to make a prediction for this fight, D? What do you think is going to happen?
I have, wow. I'm going with David Price, unanimous decision.
Okay, now this is a really difficult one to call because we've not seen everyone's cards. We've not seen both fighters' cards. Now, Tony Thompson's had a long, successful career, but as I said to him in the interview, we don't know where he lies. I have no idea where Tony Thompson ranks in terms of heavyweights of the past, or even many heavyweights now, because the best fighters that he's beaten have been a gulf miles away from the Klitschko standard, and miles away from the standard of any all-time great. And besides the early loss, let's discount that early loss from his record and say that it was a long time ago and it was a 4-round or a 6-round fight. Now, his only other 2 losses have been to the one and only Vladimir Klitschko, so it's so difficult to figure out where he falls in between those 2 fighters. But then at the same time, who's David Price beat? David Price has beat 40-odd-year-olds. He's on his way up, of course, so I don't hold that against him too much. And of course I don't begrudge him for that. This is his first step up on the world level. But we don't know if he can handle the world level at all. We don't know how far. For all we know, he could be better than the Klitschko's. It's very possible, although I don't believe he is at this moment. But we don't know where David Price lies, and we also don't know where Tony Thompson lies. If you force me to make a decision, I'll say David Price in rounds 7, 8, or 9. I think Tony Thompson will box very well. I think he'll maybe win a few of the early rounds. He'll definitely not be whitewashed by David Price, and at the same time, he won't back down from David Price. He won't back down from Tony Thompson. I'm sorry. I'd say Price in 7, 8, or 9. Also, let's talk about some of the other fights that have been announced. Another British heavyweight, Tyson Fury, who's become a bit of a rival of David Price. Let's talk about his announcement to fight Steve Cunningham, the guy who has won a number of titles at cruiserweight and has decided to step up. He's just recently fought a controversial loss against Thomas Adamek, who's arguably the leading contender and the best heavyweight not to have a title. And it was quite clear that Cunningham beat Thomas Adamek, and he didn't get the decision, which many people have criticised. Now, what do you think of Cunningham Fury, Dave?
You know, this is a very, very interesting fight. I'm just glad that it's going to be here in New York City, a fight that I'll definitely be attending, you know, as long as nothing comes up or, you know, there's no, you know, just if nothing comes up, I'll be there. Kind of sucks being that it's a 4 p.m. start. it's going to be at 4 p.m. So that's kind of early over here, but I guess in the UK, it's, pretty much prime time over there. So that'll be about, 9. And I'm happy for Cunningham. Some people feel that, main events is pricing out Cunningham. They feeding him to Fury. But I don't think so. I think this is a fight where Cunningham has a great chance of winning. And, we know Fury, man, he's very colorful, man. He's never afraid to say what's on his mind, and he's not afraid to say what he has on his mind, no matter who it is. He'll tell you how he feels. So, I think this fight is going to be a good fight, because Cunningham has to understand that this losing here to Fury puts him on the back burner. Fury's on the collision course against David Price. They're arguably the two top heavyweights coming up in the UK. And of course it'll keep putting them up there towards a world title fight. Perhaps, against one of the Klitschko's. So I'm just looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with the Brits, man. I know they're very animated when it comes to the fight, so I'm excited. I think this fight is going to be a lot of fireworks.
Now, being an American, how do the American public perceive Fury all this trash talking? We know that he quite openly called out the UFC heavyweight champion Cain Velasquez and was calling him things such as a fat midget, and saying that he'd put a whooping on a guy that competes in a different sport. Now, how do the Americans receive that? Because he's been met with quite a lot of discontent in the British press. What do the American public say? Do they like this coming from him? Do they like the trash talk, or do they think that it's a bit distasteful?
To be honest, unfortunately, the heavyweight division isn't a division that gets a lot of love here in the States. It has a lot of good U.S. fighters, as we spoke about numerous times. But the Fury, there's not too many fans that have really caught on to that. I speak to people all the time, and whenever we speak about heavyweight division, I always, talk about the European fighters, and definitely Tyson Fury, like I said, very colorful, and they're not really too familiar with him. But I think this is a fight. This is a perfect opportunity for Fury. There's, whenever you get, New York press, it's wonderful. They're gonna love him over here. The New York press is gonna love Fury when he comes here and say all these colorful quotes, and I could see him say, "Oh, I'm gonna beat all you American bum heavyweights, and I'm gonna take y'all one by." I can see him saying that, and I think that's a great thing. We need that in the sport. You understand? And I see it. I love it. I really do. He's a fighter that's confident. There's nothing wrong with that. He's saying, "Look, man, I'll whip anybody's ass, and I'm willing to fight whoever." Let's just hope that, he keeps to that word. Because we know as fighters move up and they start seeing serious money, all of a sudden, "Oh, why I'm going to fight you? You're not worth money. You don't bring me," we start getting to the politics. So, looking forward to Fury coming in, and I'm doing what he does, man, and that's, definitely where his mouth put on a good show. And Cunningham is, he's a laid-back, reserved kind of guy, so eager to see how he reacts to, Fury shenanigans.
Yeah, no, that's a good point you made, Dee. And I agree to an extent. Regardless of whether or not the fans like him, I don't think he's intending to be liked. If he wanted all the American public to like him, I think he'd go about himself much differently. But just like with Mayweather made a very good point in one interview that I listened to. He said, "It's not important to me if you like me. It's important to me if you watch me." And that's a very interesting way to put it, because he says people could disagree with what I say. They're right to. People could dislike me. They've got the right to. they've got the right to criticise me as a fighter because I'm not perfect. Nobody is. But regardless of all you guys that criticise me, all you guys that call me, all you guys that say I'm not as good as I'm made out to be, you're sat watching this video and you're sat watching every one of my fights, and that's all I want from you. That's all I require from you. Now, Fury could be playing a very, very clever game here by talking big and criticising these American fighters, calling out the UFC heavyweight champion as a way of getting not only all the boxing fans in America to tune in and getting big fights and allowing them to come over to America and fight on the big networks, but also by calling out the UFC champion, he could get plenty of UFC fans watching him fight, wanting him to get beat. And it doesn't matter who they want to win when they watch him. If they watch him, he gets paid more. Now, looking at it from that perspective, do you see him as quite a clever guy?
Yeah, it's smart. Look, in this business, you know, being flamboyant, being out there, being arrogant, being confident sells. That draws you in. People like that. You know, some people's going to hate it. Some people's going to like it. Some people's going to love it. You know, regardless, that's what happens. Floyd makes a great point. The more people dislike you, the more they're going to watch you fight. Why? Because they want you to lose. So they want to see it. Now, if you watch it, if it's pay-per-view, I mean, if you're not paying for it, somebody is. But you're going to tune in. You know, so I like that from Fury. I really do. I think it's good for the sport, and I believe that's who he is. I think he's a guy that if you saw him at a clothing store, you know, buying clothes, and you say, "Hey, Fury, you know, I'm a fan of yours, man. What do you think of these other heavyweights? Oh, fuck them all. I'll kick all their asses," and you know, so on and so forth. I just think that's who he is, and I like it. I think, especially for the heavyweight division, we don't have a fighter in the division that's outspoken like that. You know, I guess the closest one we could kind of say is David Haye to a certain extent, but Fury's really, you know, he's really up front, and I like that about him. And you know, hopefully I can make the weigh-in or the press conference here in New York, man, because I really, really want to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, we're not going to make a prediction. We're going to make a prediction on the show before and discuss this fight in much more detail. But one more thing I'd like to put is, although this is a step up in class for Fury and a step up to the world level against a former world champion, it seems like a step down in weight to me. Like, Fury's like 6'9", 6'10", and Cunningham's he's a very slender 6'2", and even as a heavyweight, he's not bulked up like Thomas Adamek did. He's not bulked up like Evander Holyfield did. He's not even bulked up like David Haye has. He's stayed below 210, 215 pounds as a heavyweight. I don't know if he's planning to bulk up. I think if he wants to win a world title at heavyweight, he's going to have to at some point. Do you see this as, although a step up in class, it doesn't really matter. The step up in class is irrelevant. He may as well fight an E-grade heavyweight that's actually up towards his size, because I don't see a win against Cunningham as being too beneficial, because he's not really proving his worth in terms of ability, which he'll need to win the titles against the likes of Povetkin and against the likes of Klitschko. He could just bully Cunningham and knock him out and use his size to his advantage. Do you see as much value to this Cunningham fight as what you would presume at first when you initially look at it, based on size?
It doesn't. It's not gonna. I mean, it's not gonna put him in the forefront, you know, of the division. But it helps. It's a name, you know, and it's more what Cunningham done in the cruiserweight division, and we can argue he got robbed against Adamek. You know, so it's not like his first fight at heavyweight he looked horrible. He looked good. He looked real good. He was boxing Adamek's ears off. It was a closer fight than a lot of people say. I don't think Cunningham destroyed, whitewashed Adamek. I think it was a close fight. You know, I felt Cunningham should have got it, but you know that's just how it is in the sport of boxing. You win some, you lose some. But I think for Fury, I think this fight is good to make a statement. He wants to come to the U.S. Now, I'm looking at it as far as a marketing standpoint, John. If he could come to the U.S., put on the show during the press conference, during the weigh-in, start drawing people to him like, wait a minute, I like this guy. Then goes in that ring and just destroys Cunningham, people will be on watch. People will be on notice. And they'll say, wow, I like this guy. I like this heavyweight. When is he going to fight again? Why? Because he'll put on a show in the ring, and he'll put on a show when there's a mic and camera in front of him. And that's what people want. They want entertainment. And that's what Fury needs to bring when he comes here. So him beating Cunningham, does it make him 10 times bigger? No. Does it help? Yeah. It's a name. It's a fighter that looked good in his last heavyweight fight. It's a fighter who won, numerous titles at cruiserweight. So it's a fight that if Fury can just walk through Cunningham impressively, then we got to give him credit for it. We're not going to put him on a pedestal neither. We're not going to call him, but I'll give him his credit for that fight, regardless of the disparity in height. That's just the nature of heavyweight. When we had this conversation, and can't wait till we get Eddie Chambers on so that we could speak about that, because you made a good point about you going in there, heavyweight 25 pounds heavier than you, but that's just what it is in heavyweight. There's no limit. From 201 and up, you come in there 350 pounds fighting against a fighter 260. That's just how it is. But Fury, I think this is a perfect marketing situation for him. We know there's no bigger media than the New York media. He wins New York media, he's going to win majority of the world, because his name will really get big, and they'll put it, wow, Fury. He came in, he put on a show. He said he's going to kick such and such ass, and going forward, he's willing to fight anybody in the heavyweight division. So it'll be a good one for him. Very solid one, better than any one he has so far.
I'm going to put a two-part question to you, D, regarding Tyson Fury and David Price, since we've discussed both of them. From your perspective, first of all, who do you think is more likely to pose the bigger problem on the heavyweight scene, and is more likely not only to win a title, but to potentially establish themselves as the number one in the division once the Klitschko brothers retire, presuming that they wouldn't fight, or at least beat the Klitschkos if they do fight them? And go on, answer that. I'll ask you the second one after.
Well, it's, I like both fighters, but I like David Price more. I think David Price at this point is the better fighter, in my opinion. I think he has more natural ability than Fury has at this stage. And I feel that he's going to be the first one to win the world title. I think he wins a world title before Fury.
Yeah, I agree. I prefer Price. He's got a much better amateur record. He's a much better technical fighter. He's a much better boxer than Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury very much does rely on his height and weight advantage. And he's very much a brawler, Tyson Fury. He loves a good fight. But when you're fighting guys that are much smaller than you, mostly, it's difficult to see where Fury does against a really good big guy like a Povetkin and like a Vladimir Klitschko. Also, Price has got much better dexterity, much better athletic movement than Fury. And he's just much better at putting his punches together in a crisp, clean manner. I think Price is more likely to cause a bigger stir in the heavyweight division in Europe and in America than Tyson Fury is. But Tyson Fury is doing a very, very good job at marketing himself, because, of course, bad publicity is still publicity. Now, question number 2 for you, D. at what point are these two going to fight? Because they've been talking about it for a long time, and then people have said, whoa, it's too soon. Similar to the sort of Deontay Wilder, Bryant Jennings situation. In fact, very, very similar to that situation, D. When are these two going to fight? Because if they fought now, it would determine the best of Britain, taking David Howe out of the picture for a second, the best for the future of Britain in the next 10 years of the heavyweight division. And it'll establish who's more likely to go and win the titles, and then we can send the winner of that on a serious campaign, and the loser of that will sort of fall on the back burner, which neither of the fighters want. So not only are they using that as a reason to hold this bout off, also, this fight's going to be a much bigger fight. It's a much bigger fight now than it was a year ago. So in 2 years or 3 years' time, or maybe even 5, who knows, it's going to be a much, much juicier, bigger, more money-making fight for the two of them, and there'll be a lot more on the line. When should these guys fight, and when do you think these guys are going to fight?
Yeah, wow, that's a nice, good question. In the words of Bob Arum, let it simmer. You have to let it simmer. With the, and that's the word Bob Arum used in regards to the Juanma Gamboa fight happening. It's the fight everybody wanted. Let it simmer. Boom, Orlando Salido messed everything up. Now, Fury and Price, man. One thing, just gonna get a little bit off track. The British fans, the UK, European fans, man, they so passionate, and I love that. And a fight against Fury and Price, holy shit, that has to be in a soccer stadium, which, football, that you guys call it football, we call it soccer, but you understand. It'll draw a huge crowd. But I think they both have bigger fish to fry at the moment. They still need to prove themselves at the heavyweight division until we want it. Of course, people's going to want it because they're the up-and-coming heavyweights, in UK. And it's like, Fury called them out. There's already, back and forth going there. But I think not yet. If you ask me, I'll say, depending how many times they fight this year, that also has to take into account. Are they fighting, frequently? If they fight 2 to 3 fights this year, and then, then maybe we could talk about next year, late, the fall of 2014. We could probably see a Price and a Fury fight. But I really see them fighting, if you want my honest opinion. One of them I have a loss before they fight. And the reason I say that is that one of them will end up fighting for a title, perhaps against Vladimir Klitschko. And we know what happens when you face the Klitschko. You go home with an L.
Of course. Okay, now, we've got a caller, and I'd like to bring him on and give our first caller of the show an opportunity, because he's been waiting for around 10 minutes. Hello, you're live on Real Combat Media Radio. What's your name and where are you from?
What's up, guys? It's me, Pound for Pound Vic from Connecticut. What up, Sean? What's up, guys?
Welcome
Pound
on the
Pound
show.
Vic, man.
Now, what would you like to contribute?
I was listening to you guys earlier, and you guys were talking about Broner, and I just wanted, if I could, get back to that, Sean. My thoughts on Broner. I like Broner.
Speak your mind, man.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I like Broner, and, I think down the road he'll be the guy on the, pound for pound list. Honestly, the win versus Reese, he did what he had to do. He went in there, lost the first 2 rounds because the guy came to fight. Gavin Reese came to fight, and I think that surprised Broner a little bit. But then he picked it up, knocked him out, did what he had to do. Sean, you already know. I told you yesterday. I think Broner should skip the Vasquez Burns fight and go straight up to 140. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, you know, John, I like what he said.
It's just like, I look at it like this. I don't think Vasquez or Burns pose a threat to Adrian Broner. And, you know, if he just, say, right now, just skips that fight and goes straight up to 140, you know, there'll be better fights for him up there, and he'll probably get tested there up there. I mean, I don't know if you guys agree, but do either of you think that Vasquez or Burns would be a trouble for Adrian Broner?
Okay, pound for pound, Vic. That's very, very interesting, because I've heard a whole spectrum from he should stay around for 2-3 years and completely beat everyone in the lightweight division, and then I've heard people that say, I'm sorry, can we make sure we quiet down? I don't know what's going on over there. That people that have said they should literally, in my opinion, I believe that he should be in a rush to get up to light welterweight for the very reasons that you say. I completely agree with you on that. But I believe that he should solidify the lightweight division before he does that. Now, I agree that Burns nor Vasquez are to present a big, neither fight would be, it'd be an 80-20 fight for Burns or Vasquez in terms of the chances of beating Broner. But I still think, whilst lightweight fights are not going to add too much to his legacy or too much to his credibility, what does add to his credibility is that he's going to solidify the lightweight division, and I think he should at least do that before he moves up. Now, you're the first person that said everybody else presupposes the idea that he's going to fight the winner of Burns Vasquez Burns. I'm very interested that you say he should move straight up. Now, what do you think about that, Dave?
No, you know, we had this conversation yesterday, and one thing I do like about Vic, he's a big Broner believer and a big fan of his, but he also wants him to fight the best. He doesn't want to. He's not a fan that's going to sugarcoat and say, well, let him do this. Hey, look, I do agree. Those are both things. Because if he moves straight off, people are going to say, oh, he didn't clean the division out. He never fought Vasquez or Burns. But we know the chances of them beating Broner are very low. So I don't think we really miss anything if he doesn't fight them, you know. So, I mean, regardless why he does, I'll be happy with it. If he takes the win of Burns and Vasquez, so be it. If he just jumps to 140, holy crap, you know, I would applaud him for that. I will be the first one to say, wow, round of applause for you, Mr. Broner. And, you know, it's something that I don't think it's going to happen. But if it happens, hey, it'll be great. It'll be a real good thing.
Now I got another question, if you guys don't mind.
Go for it.
I'd like to get both your thoughts on this. Now that Floyd signed with Showtime, right? And you know, he's a 6-fight deal, and HBO's like, I guess, trying to push Broner. Do you guys think that HBO will roll out the money and like kind of pressure Broner to move up to 140 to get a big fight before the end of the year, or do you think that won't happen since, you know, they're basically the cash cow left?
Firstly, John, answer that first. Okay, you go.
Firstly, I don't really see Floyd Mayweather leaving as a big. I don't think that's going to drastically change HBO's plans with Adrian Broner. I believe that Adrian Broner is going to get pushed the same way he would with Floyd Mayweather. You know, they're a big network. They can forcefully push 2 fighters down our throats. I don't think that the plan with Broner, if anything, they're just going to speed him up a little quicker. But in terms of his fights, I don't think that is the case. I don't think that the fact that Floyd Mayweather's left the Showtime is going to make them push Adrian Broner to move up in weight in order to get these big money fights. Adrian Broner's 23 years old, and of course he's got a lot of big money fights in the future. I don't think that HBO are going to be like, you've got to move up and fight this year, and in any way they're going to apply any pressure. If anything, I think HBO are happy to have Adrian Broner on the books for the next 10 years of his life. Get 25 fights out of him, whether they're big or small, some big, some small, and not just sit pretty and have him earning money for the rest of his career. I don't think that I don't think the HBO are in a rush. I think the HBO could very potentially keep him on the slow trail and have him not fight big fighters for a while. What do you think, Dave?
There's right now, HBO's in the corner. They feel like, okay, we lost Floyd. But it's not the end of the world. They're not going to disappear. They're not going to fall and just disappear. They are a huge network. They got huge budget. They're going to be okay. Broner, they'll definitely push him more. And to what John was saying, I don't think they're not gonna force him to fight anybody. They're just gonna want him on the network. Shit, in fact, if you put him against opponents he's supposed to beat, he's gonna look good doing it. People's gonna want to see more of him, and hey, this is what HBO wants, opposed to putting somebody with him like Lucas Medici, who has a huge shot of beating him. And if he just, his next fight, he fights somebody like that and gets knocked out. Now, they cash cow is pretty much out the window. So these guys is business. Everything is business. Would I like to see it? Of course I like to see him move up. But it's not going to happen. They're gonna move him slowly on his pace, because Al Heyman, once again, is his advisor, and he's not going to make him do that. He's going to say, listen, we're going to take our time. If we want to have 4 more fights at 135, that's what we're going to do. HBO's going to pay us. As long as they approve the opponent, so be it.
I think sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, to summarise the answer, I know you got a lot there out of us, Vic. To summarise, I think we're both on the same page. HBO, the network company, are going to be the last people to push Adrian Broner into the big fight. If he does have that big fight at the end of the year, I believe all the major players involved, I believe Al Heyman, the promoters, himself and his management team, I believe everyone is going to be more likely to push Adrian Broner in the big fight than the network companies. I believe if he does get put in a big fight, I don't think it will be the responsibility of HBO. They're in no rush to see him in a big fight. Not because they think he'll lose, because they know that they've got him for the next 10 years. I know it was your question, but is there anything that you'd like to chuck in the pot?
Yeah, no, I was just saying, because I know at the end of the day, it's about making, the two companies want to make money. So I was just saying, now that Floyd, let's say, is, he went to Showtime, Floyd said he's going to fight in May and September, the two big Mexican holidays, basically the two biggest weekend fight weeks of the year. Like, how would HBO maybe, like they did last year? HBO did the Martinez and Chavez, and Showtime did the Canelo fight, which was free. But what I'm saying is, if Floyd's fighting, let's say, Canelo in September, you think maybe since they really don't have anyone except maybe doing a Pacquiao-Marquez 5 that weekend, maybe doing like a Broner-Marquez, that's what I was trying to say, like just to keep up with Showtime. That's what I was wondering. But you guys are right.
That's a good question.
I believe that's very possible. Yeah, I believe that's very possible, but it's much more likely that they'll run Pacquiao-Marquez 5 than Adrian Broner versus Marquez. The only reason for that is Marquez is the only guy within a stone's throw that's going to have any chance to beat Adrian Broner. I think if that fight was to happen, it would happen next year sometime. Do you think that this is? Do you believe that HBO are going to throw Broner to the Lions den early or prematurely as a way of competing with Showtime?
If they're gonna counter a Floyd fight, now we're talking about Floyd Mayweather. Love him or hate him, the numbers don't lie. It's gonna have to be against a person of Marquez status. It's not gonna be worth it. And if they can't get someone of Marquez status, HBO just better just stay away from that date and just let Showtime run with it, and do a show possibly the following week or the week before. But if you're gonna counter Floyd Mayweather, let's just say Canelo that same night, you're going to have to put another Mexican legend. And there's only, I mean, not another, because Canelo's not no far from a legend. You're going to have to put a legend in Marquez against a Broner, which I think people would say, shit, I want to see that fight too. And a lot of people would tune in. And I think both fights would be sold out. If it's not going to be Marquez against Broner in September, then they shouldn't counter it. You know, just keep then I guess just keep, you know, moving him gradually. You know, because
one more. Just if you think, how about you guys as fans? If Floyd fights Canelo on Showtime, and then let's say HBO counters with, because I heard a rumor about this, of Marquez and Rios. You know, do you guys think that could compete with that or no?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Go on, Dave.
Yeah, it definitely compete. You know, you got, once again, you have a Mexican legend and Marquez, and you have a Mexican warrior and Brandon Rios. I mean, that'll be a fight shit people would talk about, you know, like crazy. That'll be the fight. That's also another fight that I can see competing on the same night with Canelo Floyd if that was to happen. So if it happened, yeah, it'll definitely compete.
Yeah, for me, Vic, I think that'd very, very much compete. I'd much prefer to watch that fight, to be honest. That'd be a much more exciting fight. And since Canelo is clearly the next Mexican icon, he's clearly the next Chavez, and he's clearly the next Marquez, he's not past Marquez. Marquez is still the number one Mexican, not in terms of ability, but in terms of the fans. He is the one that's got the hands. He's the one that's got the fans' hearts. He's the one that's got the fans' minds. And people are much more likely to pay for Marquez in Mexico than they are for Canelo just yet. I think that fight, let's go back to the Chavez-Martinez. Chavez-Martinez was clearly the best fight on that night. The Canelo-Lopez counter was clearly, it's slightly laughable, to be honest. I think that was nowhere near as entertainment and nowhere near as suspense as the Chavez-Martinez fight. If we're going to switch it the other way around and say, now Showtime are in pole position, and now Showtime are first on the grid and they're saying, listen, we've got Mayweather Canelo, beat that, Marquez Rios presents much more of a threat in terms of numbers, not necessarily to beat them, but much more of a threat in terms of how much they take away from the Mayweather fight than Canelo Lopez did against the Chavez-Martinez fight. Now, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to let you go so we can move on pound for pound, Vic, but we've appreciated your contribution to the show. Is there anything you'd like to shout out quick time, any sort of Twitter handle?
Nah, I'd just like to thank you, too. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, John. Enjoy listening to the show, and you guys already know you can follow me on Twitter at pound for pound Vic Chico, and have a good night, guys.
Thank you, Vic, man. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Yeah, call back next week if you can, my friend.
I will. Thank you.
All right, bye. All right, yeah, he's a cool guy. Do you know that guy? I believe that I've got that guy.
Yeah. Vic is a good friend of mine, man. We met at Connecticut at fights out there. That was the night Darchinian beat Orlandito de Valle. You know, that was, you know, Edwin Rodriguez beat Jason Escalera. You know, it was on HBO, and Vic, man, he, you know, very passionate fan, and you know, I was listening, you know, definitely follow my friend. His name is Pound for P Vic. You know, so
yeah.
Follow him, you know, good guy, and you know, he's always, you know, he's just like us, man, passionate fans of the sport. Always, you know, just looking for the best of the sport. That's all.
Now, we're going to call Eddie Chambers because he's recently announced the news that he's going to move from heavyweight to cruiserweight. He's challenged for the heavyweight titles twice unsuccessfully, and he's looking to gain a cruiserweight title in order to sit back on his rocking chair and say, listen, I've won a world title. And I will say, a very, very clever, a very, very articulate young man, Eddie Chambers, and we're in for a good interview because he has a lot of insight to add.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Chambers. This is John Campbell from Real Combat Media. How's it going?
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great, and I'm glad to speak to you once again. I'd like to introduce you to my co-host. This is the Boxing Maniacs from Bronx in New York. We'll both be asking you questions today. First of all, D.
Hey, Chambers, what's going on, man? It's the Maniac, man. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Your volume's a bit low on that one. It's a little more difficult for me to hear. Hold on 1 second. Let me try something. All right, say it again.
Yeah. Hey, what you doing? Eddie, man, is the Boxing Maniac, man. I was just speaking with you on Twitter about yesterday or so.
Oh, okay. No, I got you, my man. It's a little easier to hear when I put it to my ear. My fault.
That's all right. No problem, man. So anyway, looking forward to a good interview.
So yes, sir, man. You know, I try to give my best.
Okay, D, I'm gonna let you start off for once. You can ask. I've already spoke to Eddie Chambers on. I spoke to him in quite good length a few months ago. I'd like you to start this one.
All right, no problem, man. So you know, Eddie, it's obviously that you know you're campaigning at cruiserweight now, but you had told me on Twitter that hey, if a big fight at heavyweight comes up, you know, you're willing to take it. As of right now, is there anybody at cruiserweight that you see yourself fighting? Is there any fight on the horizon for you, or right now it's just dead end?
Honestly, man, you know, we were looking at the whole Lebedev situation as a possibility. You know what I'm saying? And right now, you know, Don King and Guillermo Jones came in, and now it looks like that has taken my place for an opportunity for a fight for a title in my first fight, which would have been great. We're trying to maybe do something where we get, you know, some of the better names like, you know, Coyote, you know what I mean, Marco Hunt. Some of those guys. Now, those guys have championship belts. Well, not Coyote, but Marco Huck has a championship belt. So it could be a little more difficult to make those fights. But listen, those are the fights that are available. Right now, though, nothing's on the horizon. It looks like a bit of a dead end right now. I'm hoping that someone decides to test it. You know what I mean? Come out and test me and jump in for a fight. Because right now, man, it's really difficult for me to get anything lined up.
Yeah, you know, I know it must be frustrating as a fighter, you know, knowing that not only you can't get a fight, but, you know, you can beat these guys. And it's just not, you know, a lot of fighters say, I could beat them, but, you know, we know you can beat them. You got the skills. Now, you just mentioned Marco Huck. We know, you know, I saw you on Twitter going back and forth with him. You know, we know you fought in Europe. If Marco Huck say, you know what, Eddie, let's make it happen. You packing your bags or you just going right there, whatever you got on, you just jumping on that flight to Europe and getting it popping.
Honestly, man, I feel just like what you just said. I feel exactly what you're saying. And honestly, I'd be really happy to do something like that, man. You know what I'm saying? Forget the bags and just jump on and take it before he changes his mind. You know what I'm saying? Jump right on that plane and go and give him that work. Because really, you know what I mean? You know, people initially with the emotion, they'll come out and say, "Oh yeah, I'll fight you. You ain't nothing. You ain't did this. You haven't did that." And you know, and they're like, "All right." So then we say, "Okay, we'll sign the paper." You send them over the paper, the contract, and everything, and everything's looking all great. Then they get a day to think about it, and they say, "You know what? I saw a video that I didn't like. You know what? Let me not take this fight because I don't want to lose my belt or that money that I got maybe in my next fight." You know what I'm saying? And you know, so these guys are, you know, at first glance, they're like, "Yeah, I'll fight him. He ain't really nothing. He don't look like nothing. He ain't no imposing kind of guy." But then when they get a real chance to take a look at you, they change their mind. You know what I'm saying? So if he was to offer me an opportunity for that fight, like you said, forget the bags, forget anything. I'm jumping right on the plane and we ready to go right now. You know what I'm saying? Give me a couple of weeks and ready to take the fight. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I hear that, man. Yeah, and I believe you 100%, especially at you know, with your situation right now, you never want to see a talented fighter, you know, on the sideline, man, knowing, you know, you could put in that work. Now, you know, it kind of sucks. Go ahead, Eddie.
No, I was just saying, like, you know, it's a real frustrating time for me right now. You know what I'm saying? When you look at it, you see all these guys, and it's not just the fame. You know, I'm seeing all these guys getting a lot of fame that really, I don't feel like they can carry my jockstrap in a suitcase, but it's cool. You know what I mean? I'm not a hater. I'm not one of those bitter fighters. You know what I'm saying? Or anybody that's super bitter. It's just that, you know, give us all that same opportunity. And don't get me wrong, I know these guys, you know, have great people behind them and, you know, and smart businessmen, and I understand that. You know what I mean? And I wasn't in the early part of my career. Now I'm trying to, you know, kind of regain that for myself now and to get the foothold into my career. But I just want an opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Just give me a chance. It's not, you don't have to, you know, give me all the money in the world necessarily. Just give me an opportunity to make it. You know what I mean? Then you won't be disappointed. That's all I want.
Yeah. Now, you know, we know, Eddie, you a real reserved guy, man. You lay back, you know, respectful. Do you feel you might have to just come out your shell a little bit and just say, you know what, F that, and just get Mayweather on them and just go ham and just start calling out names and, you know, calling them names and really getting under their skin to the point where they say, you know what, you want to fight, I'm going to fight you. You know, I know that's not who you are as a fighter, but hey, you got to put that money in your pocket, man. And it's not like you a bum either. You know you could beat these fighters. So it's like, yo, F that, man. If I'm not, you're gonna, you know, pretty much you're gonna have to force them to fight you. Like, yo, nah, I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna make y'all fight me. Do you feel that's something you might have to do?
Honestly, I'm talking with a couple of, you know, real cool people, you know what I mean, that I know, and family, friends, and team members. And honestly, that seems like the only way, you know what I mean? Because really, it has me kind of, you know, any kind of way out of it. You know what I'm saying? When you call people out in public, you know, it's like taking a white glove and slapping them in the face and challenge them to a duel. They can't just turn their back on that. They can't turn the other cheek to that because they think they get the behind kick. They gotta kind of face the music. And I think that's the only way. If you look at Floyd when he was Pretty Boy, Floyd wasn't, you know, he was making good money and he was famous and he was, you know, he's a hell of a fighter. So there's no question that you can't deny that. But he wasn't really making the kind of bank and getting the kind of attention he's getting until he started calling these dudes bums, slapping around, talking to money on like it's a telephone with 50 Cent on TV. He wasn't getting a lot of that TV time at all at that point. You know, now he's trying a nice big deal and all that. And when you look at it, it's like, man, how did he do that? Well, you kind of almost got to entertain these people. You know what I'm saying? You got to entertain them. You got to make them feel entertained. And I understand that now. And the only way to make these people feel entertained, being who I am, and I don't like to use, bring a racial issue or anything like that come in.
Go ahead. Just say it, man. It plays a factor in the sport. Go ahead, man. It is what it is, man. It's not fair to you.
But you look at Floyd. I hate to say it, but there's not a lot of, African American fighters that are making a lot, whole bunch of money. There are a few, but there's not. And the ones that really are doing it, the only one that I see that really has potential of being an All-American good guy is like a guy like Andre Ward. He could do it because he could just fight like that, and he does. He has enough people around him, fighters, where he can make a name for himself in that way. But when we're talking about, being an African American fighter trying to make it, you have to do something spectacular. You know what I'm saying? Something either spectacular or crazy. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
I think that's what Floyd did. Floyd did something crazy. I'm coming out Money Mayweather, throwing money in the air, going to clubs and doing all this craziness. It may not even really be totally in his character, but he's selling that. And the reason he's selling that is because it's the other way he's gonna make that money. You know what I mean? Look, I love us. You know what I'm saying? But we're not supporting each other as we should. You know what I'm saying? And the only way we can really get anyone's attention and people to watch is to make them hate us. You know what I mean? Make most hate us and a few like us, and then we can make some money. And that's the way it's looking to me right now. And it's frustrating because it's out of my character, but hey, sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
There you go, and I agree 100%. And not only, you know, it's not like you're up and coming fighter, Eddie. You have, I mean, we look at your resume. Your resume, you have a good freaking resume, you know. And it's not like you fought bums your whole life. You know, it's somebody. I know it's like, yo, wait a minute. I should be the one. You know, I fought Adam Mack with one arm. And I beat them, and you know, they did me dirty. You know, look at, you know, and no respect. I know Cunningham, you know, you from Philly. Cunningham's from Philly. Now he gets Fury fight. Now people feel he's being cashed out by main events, but it's still an opportunity for him. You know, and that's all you ask for as a fighter. Right.
That's absolutely right. And I hear you, everything you're saying. You know what I mean? You obviously real close to the. You know, you hearing a lot of stuff that I get that is quality information, which is good. You know what I mean? And this interview's going well, and you have, you know, like I said, because you got that information. But anyway, even if they were trying to do that same thing with me, I would really appreciate just having a date. You know, right now, I mean, I'm not saying that they're bad. I'm not saying, you know what I mean? Because, I mean, honestly, the fights they had me lined up for have been great so far. So I can't hate on the promoters and say they're not doing their job, because so far they are. The only problem is right now, a lot of it has to do with me as far as the injury. You know what I'm saying? That injury I had with the torn bicep tendon, which, I mean, you know, it's a bad luck situation. But I'm ready to go. I want to be active. I want to get more than just, you know, 2 or 3 fights a year. You know, now I want to at least have 4. You know what I mean? I don't know about 5. That's like going back to when I was first starting, but, you know, first turning professional. But, you know, just give me, you know, around 3 to 4 fights a year. You know what I mean? Just get active. Just get in the public eye. Have some television, you know, behind it. You know what I mean? Have the NBC. I'm just ready to get active. And being that I'm at the cruiserweight division, I need more than just 1 or 2 fights a year, because, you know, not a lot of people are paying to watch them.
Yeah. You know, real quick, you know, I had met you at the Danny Garcia fight and Eric Morales. Yeah. You know, we was kicking it. You know, I mean, I had an American shirt on. I know you come across a lot of people, but you know, you was cool and whatnot. And you know, another thing that, you know, I want to know, if in your next fight, and you know, if you win decisively, you know, per knockout, when they give you that interview, is that gonna be the stage where you say, okay, no more nice Eddie, you know, it's evil Eddie from here on. You gonna call me evil Eddie, and I'm gonna say who I want, and they gonna have to fight me, you know, because you look, Eddie, man, you know, unfortunately, you're campaigning at 2 weight divisions that here in the U.S. doesn't really get much love, cruiserweight and heavyweight. And I feel that, you know, like you said, like your team, you're going to have to just go that route, you know. See where it takes you. Say, you know what, it doesn't hurt to try. And if, hey, like you said, you know, the American, the like you said, as far as the African American go, they like them to be very flamboyant, you know, the love to hate kind of fighters, you know, fighters where people want to see them lose, or, you know, they like them because of the flamboyant and the cockiness. Yeah. You got the skills, Playboy. You got the skills to do it, to prove it, you know. I just hope that everything works out for you, man, and that you get your opportunities you deserve, because you've been around, and you're still young at that, and you got a lot of fight in you. So, you know, hopefully that happens, man, and everything works out for you. So, you know, I'm going to see what my host has to say. But, you know, Eddie, man, thanks a lot. You know, I'll be keeping in touch on Twitter. And plus, you know, you're going to go to you going to the Garcia fight?
Yeah, I definitely got to go support Danny. But, and also we'll be at the
Hopkins?
we'll be at Malik's fight, too. The Hopkins?
You're not going to that one.
Where's Bernard's fight at? I can't even believe
Hopkins. The Hopkins is fighting in Brooklyn, the Barclays Center, the 9th.
Yeah, that is. What am I thinking? I might come up that. I might want to come up to that one too. I mean, look, I love being at the fights, especially. Honestly, I love the Barclays. Right? I mean, that's actually the home of one of my favorite basketball teams right now. So I can't. You know what I mean? I gotta. No, I'm being dead serious too. You know what I mean? But anyway, no, I definitely got to come out and support them. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny because they both were working in the same gym, so I had a chance to talk to them, to see them. So definitely got to support them.
Okay. So John, you have anything for? Oh, go ahead, Eddie. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But no, I was saying I appreciate the interview, man, and thanks for the support, and just keep watching. I know you will.
Oh no, it's no, Eddie, man. You the man. It's your world. I'm just living in it.
I know you are. Like I said, I appreciate it though, man. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Chambers. Now I see where you're coming from in your frustration, and I understand your position. You're yet to win a world title yet, despite showing a lot of skill, and you've somewhat been overlooked for guys who seem to talk the way above you and talk the way in front of line without actually stepping there and beating you. Now. Sure. Talking about one of these questions about the trash talking, if you're willing to accept advice from a 20-year-old guy, I just want to keep it real and say, listen, Eddie, be yourself, because you ain't the guy to go and shout out and like call people out. So don't do that. Not only because of your career, because I think you're going to win a world title at cruiserweight, and you're potentially going to win a world title at heavyweight anyway, because you're capable of doing it, not because you're going to talk that. I think. When you're 60-year-old on your rocking chair and you look in the mirror, you'd be much more satisfied when you look at yourself and realise it took a long time, but I've done it the right way and I've done it the dignified way, as opposed to looking in the mirror and going, yeah, I won a world title, defended it 5 times, 6 times, but I got there because I talked when I didn't let my ability and let the thing that matters get you there. Yeah. And by being yourself, you realise, would you not agree that you realise it's a lot more fulfilling going about it the long way, going about it the tough way, and not changing your character just because of how other people are acting?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. You know what I mean? And I fought with myself and with my team members and everyone for saying, look, you have to be more vocal. You know what I'm saying? The way I'm talking about, like, I agree with, my man that was, we were just talking, I really agree with him to a point, but if I was to do anything like that, I'm not so much the flamboyant or so much the love, the hate type, but just the honest type, to say what I believe and not to sit back and allow people to just continue to, pass over me and me not say anything, and at least let it be known that I'm not happy about these things. See, the problem with the situation that I'm in is right now is that, you're not hearing a lot coming from me. You know what I mean? I know I've been passed over. I know I've missed out. People, there have been opportunities for me there, but people decided not to come at me, with the fights because of the fact that I'm a difficult fight, not for a lot of money. But the fact is, I basically took it with a smile and just let them go on ahead about their careers and their lives. And I think that's been the problem. It's not so much. See, I want to do it my way, like you said, be more myself in this stuff. But I still have to be a bit more vocal and let people know how I feel. And I think that in itself will get more attention, but not the negative attention or the wrong attention, but just attention in general, so that they'll say, you know what, I'm gonna fight this guy, or this guy deserves an opportunity or a shot at one of these titles, or at a fight with a high-profile fighter, just period,
Yeah. Now, as I said, I completely understand your position. I completely understand the frustration, and from an emotional standpoint, you're thinking, "Wow, I've been around a long time. I fought good fights. I beat good fighters. And I've had a couple of title shots against the Klitschko, which, to be fair to you, Eddie, you didn't have too much chance in winning those fights because of his athleticism and because of his sheer size. And we all know how good Vladimir Klitschko is. I don't need to talk to you about that. You've been in the ring with him twice. But the thing is, I'm very complacent with regards to you. I really like you as a fighter and a person, Eddie. I think that you're definitely going to win a cruiserweight title. I think you could beat all 4 champions. I think you can beat anyone in the cruiserweight division. If they don't give it you straight away, I'm sure that you're more, because you've not won a title, and because of course you want to win a title, you're going to be more than willing to step and fight the guys. You're willing to go on the merry-go-round. You're willing to fight the guy and then fight the next guy and then fight the next guy to get a title shot. And if they don't call you out, if they don't accept you calling them out, you put yourself in a position where they say, listen, fight me or vacate your title. Now, that might take longer, but you've got plenty of time to do it. Would you not agree that, would you not agree, without bragging and without talking yourself up, that you're gonna get this title fight with or without their agreement?
Honestly, I believe so. I do. I think that it's going to happen. You know what I mean? You can't just continue to overlook someone for so long and just continue to pass over somebody. You know what I mean? You look at Matisse, Matisse in the 140-pound division, and now you see now he's getting his just due. You know what I'm saying? Guys like that, Sergio Martinez, who, had a couple bad breaks early in his career, and now he's getting his just due. See, these kinds of fighters are out here. You understand what I'm saying? So I think it's going to happen. I just wish it would happen soon. I wish it would just happen soon. You know what I mean? It did not take so long to come about,
Well, what I will say, Eddie, is patience is a virtue, and
yes, sir.
you're going to get there one way or another. Now, Dee made another good point that despite being 30, which is young for a heavyweight, let's call you a heavyweight for the purposes of this question, it's a surprise because it seems that you've been along for a very long while. It seems that you've been along for a good few years. Do you still see yourself in some form of course you are a complete article, you're ready to take on whoever you take on, win, lose or draw, but do you see yourself in a learning process still? Do you see yourself as still a developing fighter and say in 5 years' time you could be a completely different fighter than you are now?
Honestly, if you take a look at my last 2 fights, one with Rossi is really going to be, you can see it on YouTube, and then you look at the one I had with Adamek, it's almost like night and day. You know what I mean? Now I'm working with James Ali Bashir as my new trainer. Even I've been with him now for it would have been about 3 fights, but a couple of injuries came about. They kind of put me out, and now so it's only been 1 fight. But if you look at those 2 fights that I mentioned, and match them up and look, you would say, wow, there's a huge difference. There's things one thing is for sure, me at this stage in my career, and even when I was on the road to the title, there's a huge difference in the amount of things I've learned. My body type now, I'm more slim, more mobile, even though I was able to move back then. But like I said, more mobile. Even though I had good hand speed, now my foot speed matched it, head movement, not just standing in front of big guys blocking punches. So absolutely, I'm still learning. I still have a lot to learn, to be honest, and I'm learning it not just from my trainer, but encouragement from my trainer to learn from other great fighters. The guys who paved the way for me to be here. We're talking about old school fighters. When you talk about Jersey Joe Walcott and Ezra Charles, guys like that who were really, really, really well skilled, bigger guys, and looking at what they did. And trying to not just mimic it, but trying to find little things, little wrinkles in their styles that can help me fight some of these humongous giants, and also some of the guys now that I'm going to be facing that are my size.
Mm-hmm. Now, you are completely a throwback heavyweight. You've been plucked straight out the 40s and 50s. You're a perfect example of a guy who is a throwback fighter. Now, we spoke last time in depth about your plan to go down to cruiserweight, just so you know that you've won a world title, because that's obviously something you don't want to fight at the level that you're at, just on the cusp of a world title for the rest of your life, and then not win the world title, because of course it doesn't make you any better of a fighter to win a world title, but of course you want to be able to say, and you deserve that, you definitely deserve that. Now, you're going to win, I don't think there's no question, you're going to win a cruiserweight world title. You might win 2, you might win 3, depending on how long you stay there. And I think that, despite the fact that you've not won one yet, I think that you're in a very, very luxury position. I think the fact that you're of the size where you can go down to cruiserweight, I see this as a big vacation for you. I see this as a holiday. You go down, you fight the best fights at cruiserweight, you beat these guys, because I think you can beat every single one in the cruiserweight division, and then you move up and then get in the mix when the Klitschko's retire, because guys like Bryant Jennings and guys like Deontay Wilder and guys like Thomas Adamek, they can't beat the Klitschko's, but they're sort of stuck in the heavyweight division where they've got nothing to do. All they can do is just they don't want to fight each other, because if they lose, they don't want to fight the other top guys at heavyweight, because if they lose, they're not going to get the big fights down the line when the Klitschko's retire. So they're in a state of limbo. You can go down and win a couple of world titles at cruiserweight. Now, when you come back up to heavyweight, let's say in 3 years' time, let's say you win a couple of world titles, you go, right, Klitschko's have gone, I'm making my statement at heavyweight. Who do you think are the, say, sort of top 2 or 3 guys who are going to be competing with you for the heavyweight titles once they free up?
Once the way it looks now, the landscape, the most prominent name, the Eastern, I'll say the Eastern European bloc right now, which is, I would think, Tyson Fury would be a name that would be involved in that. And I'm just talking about the Europeans at this point. David Price looks to be, and Kubrat Pulev will be 3 of the guys that I think will be pretty well locked into the top spots. I'm not saying that there's not a couple other guys who could find themselves in it, but of course, and of course the American heavyweight scene, I see right now Bryant Jennings pretty much, not just because, I know, but no, I see the progress he's made and the interest that he has of some of the American public, let's just say, would be another one. There will be, in the next few years, once they retire, will be in that conversation along, if I decided to come up back to the heavyweight division, which I most likely will do, will be there right with me.
Okay, I'm going to thank you for coming on the show and speaking to us once again. And when you get your fight signed, you know where I am. Give me a shout, and we'll get you back on to talk about specific details with regards to the fight. Of course, it's good to chat with you, but there's no point getting you on. There's no point getting you on in 2 weeks' time for another one of these. We want to talk about your next fight, and we want to talk about how you're going to win. And then after it, when you've got the title, we want to get you on and go, Edda, I told you, be yourself, and you're going to win a title. Thank you very much for coming on. It's always a pleasure to speak to you, Mr. Chambers.
No problem, man. It was a pleasure. It was all mine. I appreciate the interview.
Yeah. Is there anything that you'd like to shout out before you go? Twitter or any sort of businesses?
Oh, well, honestly, man, just the boxing fans, the boxing public. I just want them to raise awareness. We're still here. You know what I mean? There's a lot of skilled fighters and a lot of people being overlooked. So don't look at the sport as being in the down period. We still have a lot of great talent. Just continue to follow it and push and support us. And eventually things will change, and the boxing will be back to the forefront.
Okay, Mr. Chambers, it's time to go. We've got 2 minutes left on the show. One thing I will say: don't change for the world. It'll come to you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Take care.
I will. I won't.
Bye.
All right.
John, you got lost again, man? Anyway, well, that was Eddie Chambers. Great interview. Definitely, one of the best American heavyweights, whether it be cruiser or heavyweight, just having, issues getting fights. And he feel he might have to come out his element a little bit just to get the fights he deserves. So hopefully he gets it, man. As you heard, he wants to fight, man. He wants to fight. And, the money right now ain't the issue, So if anybody's willing to give him the opportunity, man, he's willing to take it. And, Eddie Chambers very skillful, man, and he made a good point. I think a lot of fighters say, yeah, I want to fight you. This is at the cruiserweight division I'm talking about. And, they see video, they say, wait a minute, this is not the guy I really want to get in the ring with. And they might feel he's high risk, low reward kind of fighter. But when I look at it, man, he's been in the ring with top fighters, and he should be getting the best fights available. So let's see what the future holds for Eddie and his career, and hopefully he gets what he wants. So we couldn't get Steve Forbes on, but it's okay. Maybe next time. Monday, we don't know right at the moment who we're getting, but should be another good one. And that there you go, man. That's another show, Real Combat Media. Me, the Boxing Maniac, and your host, Boxing John UK. Tune in Monday. Everyone have a good night.